Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you all about the latest album from Turmion Katilot, Global Warning, out right now on Nuclear Blast. This album has 13 tracks, 47 minutes in length, and this is the band's 9 full-length studio album, first album being released by Nuclear Blast. Alright, this is a very hard review for me to do because I'm totally biased when it comes to Turmion Katilot. These guys could release an album with every single member farting on a different track and it would still be perhaps my favorite album of the year. They can absolutely do no wrong in my eyes, so it's very hard for me to sit here and analyze an album from a band that I really like, that just has a very special place in my heart, and it's really difficult to be clear and concise when you talk about Turmion Katilot and when you talk about Global Warning. So I want to give you guys a heads up that this perhaps will be a very biased review. The Masters of Latex are back with another industrial masterpiece. So let me start off like that. I think maybe perhaps that is the best segue to get into the rest of the album. To me, I felt going in that perhaps there would be some pressure on the band, considering that this is their first album being released with Nuclear Blast. Huge label, huge promotion, there's going to be a lot of support behind the record, so perhaps the band would feel the pressure, the necessity to release one of their stronger albums to date because of all those conditions that I just said. If there was pressure, I don't think they felt it, because the album to me feels very organic, it feels very natural, it feels very Turmion Katilot. So from that perspective, I think they handled it very well, and they didn't let the big label get to them, and they still continue to put out a great record and put out great songs and create an album that really falls in line with everything they've done in the past and everything that I believe they will continue to do going into the future. The album has a great structure. When you talk about industrial metal and when you talk about Turmion Katilot, there's always a sense of the same components, the same elements being used in songs. So there is always the idea that tracks could fall into a pattern as you go down the record. At least from my perspective, that's always a fear that I have with certain genres that have these conditions that allow songs to feel a little bit repetitive. That was one concern going in. I felt that the album is structured beautifully. The track listing and the overall structure of the record is one that allows the album to be fluid, that allows the album to have continuity from track to track and not really have songs that, in my opinion, have the same motif, the same structure, the same sound, the same output back to back or even near each other. They created a record that really offers an incredible blend of tracks and incredible fluidity from song to song that just gives you a feeling of up and down, gives you a feeling of a roller coaster ride, with putting songs that are a lot more dynamic, a lot heavier, then alternating that with something a little bit more melancholic, then putting a song that's perhaps a little bit more danceable, if you will. So they did a great job alternating tracks, creating a track listing and creating an overall structure of a record that has great playability from the first to the last track, and that has a great fluidity to it, feeling very fresh at every turn and allowing the listener to get re-engaged with every single song as you go through the record. On the vocal side, once again, nothing new here. The layering of vocals, the multiple styles, the multiple approaches, having multiple vocalists on the track. This is something that Turmion Katilot does on every track, on every album. So there's nothing new there. But I really like the way they handled this record, the way they mixed the vocals, the way they layer them together. In specific songs, they really elevated the track. They really gave a little bit more substance to the songs. They gave a little bit more heart, and they also used them in a way of creating an atmosphere behind the track. If the song was more danceable, if the song had more of a pop feel to it, the style of vocals and how they layered the vocals was different from the songs where there was more of an industrial, heavier bass line. So to me, while the elements are the same and they're not new to the band, and how they used them on this album perhaps showed a little bit more maturity, showed a little bit more of a concise, trained thought process in knowing exactly what approach each song needed and how can we put the vocals in a way that they can elevate the songs, elevate the quality of the tracks, and at the same time create a little bit of an atmosphere to the song and really let the song breathe better and allow the song to really engage the audience. The album really mixes a lot of different genres from a sound perspective, moving into sound. Mixes in a lot of things. You have industrial metal as the bass line, but then you have also a lot of melody, a lot of melancholic approaches, a lot of electronic elements. This is Turmion Katilot. It's really a melting pot of genres, a melting pot of elements. They're not afraid of bringing anything new to the table or bringing a different element to the table, and this album is no different. I really felt that the sound, the overall sound of the record was very strong, very dynamic, very fluid, with a variation of elements coming together, but more importantly, it's really well blended. They did a magnificent job with the production on this record. The sound is glorious, it's crisp, it's beautiful. The mixing of the different elements, there's a lot of moving pieces. You got keyboards, you got guitars, you got bass, you got vocals, different styles of vocals, different vocalists. There's a lot of stuff happening on the record, and the ability to create an album that sounds this clear, this crisp, where not one element overshadows the other, where they don't interconnect and then crash against each other, to me is kudos to them, because it really allowed the album to have a clear sound, a clear vision, and then from the fans' listening perspective, allows the fans to really connect with the overall melody that the album has, but also with the emotions that the album have. I really feel like they were able to transport the emotion of the songs not only into the lyrics but also into the music. Each track really has a different emotional vibe to it. Really important for this record, in my opinion, to have that ability to create tracks that have an emotional signature to it, and then have that emotional signature not only be present in the sound but then transport itself into the lyrics and into the vocals. I love the overall aspect as far as sound is concerned on this record. One more element within the sound is the electronic elements. I really like what they've done there. The electronic elements on this album are not there just to create this enhanced feel of sound and melody. That is one of the condiments that the electronic elements add to the record. But I also felt that the electronic elements on this album added atmospheric elements, added a sense of haze. It added a sense of where they wanted the song to go. Going back into the emotional side that I was mentioning earlier, I feel like the electronic elements, the keyboard, the synthesizer on this record really add that emotional aspect that the song needs. When the song needs to be a little bit darker, the melodies that you get from the keyboard synthesizer are a little bit darker. They fall a little bit more into the background. They become more of an underbelly. They become more of an undertone to the song. When the track is a lot more lively, when it has a more of a party atmosphere, a party vibe, those elements jump more into the forefront. They become more melodic. They become brighter. So I really like the overall electronic aspect of the album. I love how they used the same element but in different ways in order to achieve different results with different songs. Really creative, really well put together. Overall, I love this album. It has power, it has melody, it has heaviness, it has melancholy, and it has catchy and hooky tracks, track after track after track. There's not one skippable song. This is a really glorious record when you look at the overall body of work. All 13 tracks are really well crafted, really well put together. And like I said earlier, right at the beginning of this review, I really believe the track listing really emphasizes and really enhances the overall quality of the album. This album is just a continuation of the legacy that the band has put forward in the previous 8 records, and now it's just perhaps a little bit more mature approach to what they've been doing for the past couple of years, for the past 8 records. So I feel like this album really offers a little bit more of a mature sound, at least knowing how to execute their tracks at a different style, at a different level. I just feel like the game has been raised, the bar has been raised with Global Warning. As far as songs are concerned, these are my 3 favorite songs for different reasons. First is Night, which is the opening track of the album. The moment this song starts, the moment the album gets started, you know you're in for a party, you're in for a good mood, you're in for a Tourbillon Catelotte album. This song has great opening. It has a very atmospheric soundscape as the song starts off. Very dynamic in the verses with the vocals taking the lead, and it's a more keyboard-driven sound. is very stripped down. It has a very stripped down effect. The keyboard is almost more in the background, and the vocals really feel like they're the driving force of the verses. The chorus, there's this explosion of sound and melody. I just love how robust, how big the sound is in the chorus. The vocal layers are magnificent. They add melody, but they also add a little bit of heaviness, creating a lot more volume. They really expand the sound of the track. In a nutshell, this song, in my opinion, is a 90s dance pop hit with industrial metal elements added to it. that is what you're getting out of this song. And I love the mixture of these two very distinct worlds that somehow this band is able to merge together and create magnificent tracks. This song could not be any better. Perfect opening for the record because it's really a lighthearted, it feels like a lighthearted song. It feels like a song that's very approachable, very easy to digest. It has a lot of the traditional Tourmion Katilot elements in it, and mixing dance, like pop dance hits with industrial metal. So this song has all of that, all of those elements present, making it the perfect opening of the album, allowing the fans to gravitate towards the record, listen to a song that perhaps they would be familiar with, and then allow them to then engage with the rest of the album. There's also a little bit of a vocal bridge in this song towards the end that I just love. I love the humming, and then I love when the vocals come on top of the humming. That portion there is so dark, but so melodic at the same time. Was definitely one of the highlights of this track. Before then, the song closes off with a chorus. Perfect opening for the album. Next is Turvasana, a more industrial, heavier track. Definitely changes the dynamic. It's definitely a more robust, sound-wise song. A little bit slower, a little bit heavier, with a much heavier undertone. Has fast-driven elements to the song, but at the same time, as they're fast-driven, is not a song that's necessarily robust. I feel like there is two layers to this track. There is a slower, heavier undertone to the track, and then there's a faster tempo that really moves the track forward, and somehow those two are interconnected and creates this really big wall of sound that pushes the track with great momentum, moving at a forward pace. I love the vocals. I love the texture that the vocals add. They also add heaviness to this song. It's almost like every single element on this song is adding heaviness. And while they're adding heaviness to this undertone carriage, the song is still moving at a great pace. So a really nice blend of those two elements, being able to create a song that is heavy and fast at the same time. There is not as much of a divide in this song as it was in the previous song. Between the verses and the chorus. I really felt like the verses and chorus was really well combined together. There is a slight change, and to me the change is there's a little bit more melody that gets introduced into the chorus, but the song still feels pretty much the same. Is very robust between the two, and there's not a big divide, there's not a big break that really breaks the song into two and creates these two worlds. It's a well blended track all the way through. Powerful, heavy track. One that I really enjoyed because it had a lot of heaviness and it had great tempo to it. Last but not least, Jumalauta. The reason I picked this song is because Antonio and we did a little vignette for the guys in Tourmion Katilot for this song. They gave us the opportunity, and we thanked them for that, to do a little promo for the album before the album was released, and this was the song they gave us to do the promo with. So for that reason, this song will always have a special place in my heart. So I picked this song. It's not heavy, it's more of an electronic driven track, has more of a fun atmosphere to it, specifically in the verses. The mood changes in the chorus, becoming a little bit more industrial, a little bit more heavy. There's definitely a divide between verses and chorus, not only from a sound perspective, but also from an emotional and mood perspective. The song really changes from the verses going into the chorus. The changes between the two allow the song to be very dynamic, allow the song to have great fluidity. I really love this track because it's almost a synopsis of how the whole album plays out, with these ebbs and flows, these up and downs, this roller coaster of a ride. This song is pretty much a representation of the record from that perspective, because it gives you this up and down feel between the verses and the chorus, more melodic, heavier, more melodic, heavier. I just love how this song sounds, and once again, I love the fact that they give us the opportunity to do a promo with this track for the release of the album. That's it, guys. That's Tourmion Katilot with Global Warning. I'm sure you'll have a lot to say, and I really want to hear what you guys think of this album. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.